it's one of those people who are like, oh, we're recording now? And you're like, yeah, we're recording now. So, are we recording now? So, like, right now. So, we're back here in Plymouth at the Craft Beer Cellar, our home away from home, with John Yuskaitis. He's a friend of ours, and been for a few years now. We met at Boston Comic Con.
Yeah, been about 6 years.
And, God, has it really been that long?
I think so.
Time flies.
Yeah.
And John here is the author and artist behind Boots and Pup, which is a comic strip or comic book?
It's a full-on comic book. It started as a comic strip back in 2005 on the web, and then it turned into a series of graphic novels about maybe 2.5 years ago. And so now there are 2 graphic novels out there collected of the web comics, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, and there's even a short cartoon on YouTube, correct?
There is. There's an animated cartoon as well as a video game, which was available on Apple on their...
so there's like an app?
Actual, honest to goodness app called Fish Missile, which isn't up there at the moment. There is plans to bring it back up and also bring it to Google Play.
Oh, nice. So what is Boots and Pup? Just the general...
Boots and Pup,
sales pitch.
Yeah, so it's a comic about 2 best friends who are aliens from another planet. There happens to also be a fish named Sniffles, a group of myopic cyclopses, if that's the plural for cyclopses. Is it
Cyclopsy?
Cyclopsy.
No. Is it
I think it's Cyclopes.
Cyclopes?
I really do think, but at this point, who cares? Because when does it come up?
Yeah. Well, it came up tonight, and so we have some sort of answer to that. And it takes place on a planet far away, and it tells a story about friendship. It also tells a story about a hidden amulet that is a object of desire for a galactic warlord named Drek, as well as a unassuming worm named Leroy. And that's all available in one form or another at bootsandpup.com, and available on Amazon as well.
Oh, nice. And so, how long you've been working on this? At least 6 years, obviously, because we met at Comic-Con.
Yeah. So my first run-in with Boots and Pup was actually back in 1989, back when I was in high school. Just kind of characters I drew. Kind of thought they were cool, and the whole idea behind them were that they were sidekicks to sidekicks. So there was never any real hero in the mix. And so when you have 2 sidekicks like C-3PO and R2-D2 kind of bumbling around things, you never quite get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And they kind of stuck there back in high school, put them away, and back in 2005, a buddy of mine, I kind of given up on the whole comic thing, and he said, hey, this is really kind of cool. You should make a web comic. I'm like, I don't know anything about websites. He says, well, I'll show you in 15 minutes how to make a website. I'm like, no, you won't. Sure enough, in 15 minutes, he showed me how to make a website. In March of 2005, I had the first comic up, and by February of 2005, I was ready to quit and call it quits. And the reason why is after putting the comic up there, I received a kind of a negative piece of fan mail.
Mm-hmm.
If you call it fan mail, that sort of just kind of tore apart everything I was doing. And it was tough because at that point I'm like, hey, I'm just kind of doing this as a hobby. I have a kind of a job doing my 9-to-5 thing as a junk mail artist at the time, but it kind of stunk. And I'm thinking, do I really want to go through and continue this? And so I thought long and hard about it over the weekend, and I said, yeah, absolutely. So that was
kind of the time before the internet became known for being just a wasteland of negativity.
Yes.
I mean, now people are like, hey, I got hate mail. And,
yeah.
It's almost like, oh, this one's funny. But back then it probably stung.
Yeah, it did. And because I didn't really think I wanted to do that again or try doing that again. And so once I did and put myself out there, I had to make the decision, do I continue? And I did make the decision to continue. And my next piece of mail came from an individual who was an animator with Fox, and he actually worked on the Robots movie, Bowling for Columbine, and he loved it. He said this is one of the funniest things he's seen. He loves the colors. He loves the characters. I had introduced Sniffles the fish by that point, who at that time was a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
And he just gave me this great ego boost. And that ego boost I rode all the way to where we are now. And from that point on, I've had the opportunity to make a lot of people happy with the comic. Kids, adults alike, and it's been a really fun ride.
And you've done a lot of Comic-Cons, so you must have people coming back.
I do.
Looking for more, and that's got to be the coolest thing.
It's cool, and they're growing, especially the kids. I'm seeing kids now in braces, out of braces, as well as growing facial hair, which is a little weird. It makes me feel like I'm getting old, but it also makes me realize why I do this, why I'm there.
Yeah, but I mean, like at your first one, if it was 6 years ago, if that kid was 10, that's he's gonna be driving now. That's kind of crazy that you could influence someone that way.
Yeah, and I actually had that happen this last year. This Comic-Con in Boston that happened in August, is I had Caitlin, who has been there since the beginning, and she's grown up, and it's really nice to have these individuals come back and look for more, want more, and understand where the story's going, because it is a continuation story. It kind of mixes what I really loved about growing up, and what I loved growing up was I loved Carl Barks and his Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge comics, and I got those from my dad. He brought his collection from when he was a kid, and I would read them when everyone else was reading Spider-Man. They were reading Batman, whatever, X-Men. I was reading Donald Duck, and that was really awesome. But I also love Star Wars, so that's kind of where the space element came from, and the two of them kind of mixed, and it was really a fun opportunity to explore the things that I liked as a kid. And I write the books as if I was writing to a 9-year-old John, what would he find funny? What would he like? As well as a 43-year-old John, what does he find funny?
Right, so you try and kind of get both ends of that.
Both ends.
And that's like having kids. I appreciate when I go to a movie, if I find something funny and then my kids find something funny, those are the most enjoyable movies, are the ones that kind of have a little bit for everybody.
Absolutely. And kids, they'll rat you out fast. If it's not funny to them, if they don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah.
They're not going to play games. They're not going to play you're hurting that guy's feeling because you don't like my book. And I tell parents, I said, don't worry about it, because they'll come over to me and say, oh, this looks great. Hey, check this out, Billy. And Billy's like, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if Billy's wearing a Finn hat from Adventure Time.
Right, or a Captain America shirt or an Iron Man mask.
Well, those may be actually not care too much, but definitely the Adventure Time kids, they'll love it. If you're wearing like a Steven Universe t-shirt, they'll come over and love it. So I kind of get and know automatically who's going to really like what I'm doing here.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Versus the ones who won't. And fair enough. I don't want anybody reading my book out of the necessity because it's in front of them. I want them to enjoy it. And I've been lucky enough, and I would knock on wood right now if I didn't blow the mic out, but it's been a great ride, and these kids have really given me an opportunity here to explore this comic series and share the stories with them.
And the one thing that I always noticed about your setup at shows is it was always kind of a step above everyone else's. You had cutouts of your characters, and it's very bright and colorful, and the comic and whatnot are very vibrant and colorful. I think that is appealing.
And that takes it back to growing up with cartoons. Cartoons were colorful, they were vibrant, and also having that eye appeal. I always wanted the presentation to be top notch. I wanted people to think that they were kind of stepping into the universe, stepping into the grouping of characters that I created, and get to know them a little bit, and know them through that simplicity. And I've always known, and it goes back, I think, to studying up on what makes cartoons funny. We grew up loving Ziggy. We grew up loving these very basic Charlie Brown. I think that probably takes it back the closest. Very simplistic in its way, but it could speak to everybody. And I knew I was giving a subject matter that not everybody would like. I mean, my dad wasn't really into the sci-fi. He was more into westerns, cowboys. But if I could make it colorful enough that it harkened back to the Donald Duck or to Little Lulu or even to Abbott and Costello in some ways, that I could appeal in that way. And that kids may not realize they're being fed who's on first, because they're seeing these colorful, fun characters. And I'll also go on record as saying that I had the buddies first. Back before there was Jake and Finn, back before there was regular show, Boots and Pup were there. It wasn't, they were always two. You could never have just the one. So, granted, it's not a cartoon out there in the universe, or it's not popular, but they are really, I feel proud that I kind of grabbed on that buddy thing before anyone else was really doing it.
I know regular show's popular, to be honest with you. I never watched it, couldn't tell you a thing about it. Somewhat familiar with Adventure Time, thank you. But visually I could see the similarities. They're not stylistically the same, but in some aspects
they're very fun cartoons. I mean, I've enjoyed watching Adventure Time. I've enjoyed watching regular show. One of my favorite shows was the Misadventures of Flapjack, which was such a beautiful show, as well as Chowder was another one. And these were kid shows that were made on Cartoon Network, probably around 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
That followed the Dexter's Laboratory. I think they had.
Oh yeah, I watched Dexter's Lab with the kids. That's a great show.
And I think they had a little more refinement to them, and kind of led to the Adventure Times and the regular shows. And Steven Universe, which is one that I just picked up on within the last 2 years, and that one is really it's a special show. I haven't caught up with it, but I can see and understand why people like it. Why it has a big fan base.
With my kids, it was always SpongeBob.
Oh yeah,
and I always felt like you could just see the influence from like Ren and Stimpy on that show.
Yeah,
and there were always what was the other one? Was not Dexter's Lab. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Oh yes.
Oh my God, there were so many in-jokes in that.
And was that Craig McCracken also? I think.
I don't know who did that one.
Okay.
But I just remember watching it one time, and you're kind of half paying attention to it, and the kids are watching it, and they're walking through a bowling alley, and they're kind of doing the Flintstone things, a couch and a lamp, a couch and a lamp, a couch and a lamp, a couch and a lamp. The Big Lebowski, couch and a lamp, couch and a lamp. And I was like, that was the dude! And my kids are like, what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
But it's just like those little nuggets that are slipped in there. And
there's so much of it out there.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Ren and Stimpy. I'm actually excited. I'm going to New York Comic Con again this year. And I've only once met Bob Camp. And that was in Rhode Island, I think maybe 3 years ago. And it just never seemed to match up that I was at any of the shows he was at or there. But I've got to know his reputation through social media and watching the stuff that he's producing. The man is still on top of his game with Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
I would love to see more Ren and Stimpy cartoons and animation. He's done some work on SpongeBob. He's done the storyboards and such. Just such a class act from what I've seen. I'm looking forward to meeting him and his girlfriend Michelle, who's been also super nice. I bought some original artwork from them.
Nice.
I am a collector of artwork.
Yeah.
Things that I like and really enjoy. But Ren and Stimpy for me has got to be probably the best cartoon to come out of the last. I would say 50 years, right?
It was so groundbreaking and at the same time so familiar.
And people don't quite understand what it took to make that and who was really the star of that and who really made that happen. John Kay, talented artist for what he's done, but he was pretty much gone early on. And Bob
he only
Camp,
lasted like a season or two.
I think it was the first season, and then Nickelodeon said, we got to let you go. Bob Camp, and I believe Ken Waller, I know more about Bob's involvement just because of, following him on Facebook. But these guys really made this happen. And, of course, obviously Billy West.
Yes.
Who I've had a chance to meet twice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually, Gary Summers brings him around to some of his shows.
He's always at, the New England Comic Con.
It's called New England Comic Con. He has one come up in December. They're great shows. They're in Wilmington. They're easy to get to. They always have fun. I've never had a bad show where I've gone, whether I've been there as an exhibitor once, but I've traveled there as well to see the shows. Always gracious, always a fun time, easy in, easy out, and there's always something fun for the family, some fun things going on there. And he's had Billy West there for one, and he also met him out on New York Comic Con, and that guy was a hoot. And he's like these guys that made this show happen. It's classic. It was like lightning struck, and they continued it. And if they were to all come back again and make this show happen, I think they could do it. I know John Kay tried it, wasn't as successful. I know it didn't get Billy West's involvement. Yeah. I know that there was no Bob Camp involvement.
I remember they tried to bring it back, and it didn't.
Spike TV did it.
Yeah, and they tried to kind of make it more just grown up.
Very much so.
And I honestly never saw it, but it wasn't around very long.
It lost it. No, it was less than one season, I believe. It ended up coming on video. I did buy the video to watch it. It just wasn't the same. And, with Billy West, I can paraphrase him, quote, saying that he didn't think it would be very good. So he didn't want to have involvement. I mean, this guy's Fry, for crying out loud.
Right,
This guy's Futurama. Actually, I say Ren and Stimpy, one of the best in the 50 years. Futurama, I think, touches that, too.
Well, I don't want to get on your bad side. I've seen an episode or two here and there.
You've never seen?
I just never.
Really?
Don't give me that look. Fish is looking at me. Yeah.
Wow.
It just. I knew it was there and just never sat and watched it.
You know what? That's it. I'm leaving.
Can you Slam the door. So it's clear where your influences come from.
Yeah,
I mean,
love cartoons.
And myself, I grew up on like Hanna-Barbera.
Oh yeah,
and, you know, Warner Brothers and stuff. So that was a huge influence to me too. So I'm not saying that we were across the street and talking at the bar, but we mentioned briefly. So what is in the future for Boots and Pup?
Well, right now it's top secret. I'm going to encourage you to go out if you're interested to check out what's existing, and then let me know what you think. And when I say it's top secret, I'm on a bit of a hiatus, and that hiatus could be forever, or it could be for, you know, the next year or two. And the reason why is that doing Boots and Pup, while I love and enjoy doing it, it's not my full-time gig. My full-time gig is actually working, you know, for an honest-to-goodness company, doing company things. And
no, but what if someone came in and offered you not, you know, Star Wars money, but offered you a reasonable paycheck? Like, would you step back from where you are now and maybe try and see if Boots and Pup?
I don't think it's about the paycheck. I think really it's about understanding where the story ends. I mean, if there's an opportunity for Boots and Pup to exist, you know, and move forward, then absolutely I'm going to explore that. But it's, you know, I think that there are opportunities with Boots and Pup to enjoy what's out there and check it out. If you like it, if you dig it, then absolutely there'll be more. I mean, that's where my pull probably will end up happening. But it's not necessarily the money thing. I think it's really about that time and investment, and I don't want to do it wrong. And I think that's where it comes down to having only a certain amount of time to work on this and do it right. I don't want to shortchange the readers, because I think that there's a great story to finish being told, and I'd like the opportunity to do it. And it may be over time. It may be one day, you know, 3 years from now, I'll be like, hey, by the way, guys, I finished the book. Here it is. Yeah. And then come out and promote it and push it out there and let people know that it exists. But like I said, there's plenty of it out there. There's enough story to take you through. I mean, there's 2 graphic novels. There's a full-on collected book. So that's 3 books. And, you know, where the future goes, I mean, definitely there will be a finality to the story. It just probably won't be in 2017, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, anyone offering me the money for that, I think, like anything, there's so many good stories out there that need to be told. And there are so many really talented people that work in this industry making comics, making them happen, that I think deserve the opportunity to continue making them. In a lot of ways, I was like a cockroach, right? Here was this guy, I had a full-time job, I had benefits, and I can show up at these shows and sell my book next to folks who are really living it, and they're making the dream happen. So there's so much happening now that the talent it's great. I've enjoyed seeing what's out there. I've enjoyed seeing Comic-Cons grow in the last 6 years.
And they have exploded.
Oh, my God.
They absolutely exploded. I don't think there's any question on that.
And I had the opportunity last year to be at San Diego Comic-Con with Boots and Pup, and that was an amazing time. I've been at 2 of New York's summer shows, which has been great. Boston, 6 years straight doing that, and some of the smaller shows that pop up in the
and Rhode Island's not a small show by any stretch of the imagination.
That's a monster of a show, and it's always fun to be at. And Steve Perry, the guy that runs the whole thing, he's been super nice to me in Boots and Pup. All of the promoters have been really good to me, and I enjoy that aspect of it. And also the Artist and Artist Alley. I've had an opportunity to make a lot of friends, Andy included here, and get to know and understand the properties, and also what it takes to make this happen. This isn't something that you do and it's easy. There's a lot of, like I talked about earlier about this, there's levels of rejection with what you do, but there's also levels of reward. Yeah. And the reward, the money never equals to the effort put into it, but you never look at it that way. You look at it, what you as a creator, as somebody who takes a blank piece of paper, and by the end of your adventure with that piece of paper, you've created something that has entertained people, whether it be 1, 2, or thousands. You've done things that not a lot of people can do, and you've brought some happiness to the world, because I'll tell you right now, we need that. Yeah. And I'm glad that I had a productive opportunity to make people happy and make myself happy in doing it.
And to me, that's the amazing, like, I've had so many surreal experiences. And
Oh, yeah.
on the grand scheme of things, I'm no one.
Yep.
And I've had people come up to me and they treat you like you're a celebrity. We were at Rhode Island Comic Con. It was maybe the second one.
Okay.
And we were at...
That was a great one.
It was the one where the setup was on Halloween. Do you remember that one?
Friday night? Yep.
And so they had a Halloween party after setup. And we're at the party and we're hanging out and just having drinks. And this woman comes up and she's wearing a staff shirt. And she's like, "Can I get a picture of you guys?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, whatever."
I think I know who she was.
And she snaps off a few pictures. And then she looks at me and goes, "I'm a really big fan."
Yeah.
And then walked away. And I'm like, who the fuck did she think I was?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Well, what if she thought you were you?" And I'm like, that's even weirder. You know, it's so surreal to see people happy with something that I don't want to say like I take for granted, but like as an artist, I'm sure you have that experience where you're almost never really happy. You always feel like you could maybe do a little better, and you always pick out the things that are wrong with it.
That's why I do everything digital, so I can change it at a later date.
Yeah, and so like to see someone so happy and all you see is errors with it, it's just a very weird experience. So you were mentioning the levels of rejection and how it's a struggle, and there's one person, I won't mention names, who I've met through doing conventions, and he always makes me laugh. A really good guy, but he's under this, well, I have a book, where's my movie deal? And, you know, we're like, well, you got to pay your dues. You have to put in the time. I've paid my dues. And we're like, you're like 22. You know, you've not paid your dues. So, like, what kind of advice would you give someone who's in that beginning level? Because to me, it's almost like, I don't want to say whether it's good or bad, but like you could have the best property in the world. You know, like if that first review that person gave you, and you're like, well, Boots and Pup sucks, and stops there. So like, what advice would you give someone who's kind of at that verge, got their first bad email?
Okay, so this is a good one because I've actually kind of explored that, and I've actually asked the question. One of the things I do when I buy an original piece of artwork from a creator is I ask them to write something personal on it, to talk to me about the art form, about what they do and how they do it. And depending on who they are, it may be something short, but it's short and very poignant. Steve Rude had a really nice thing to say about, you know, I bought one of his first pieces from him directly, and it was a book he and Mike Barron did before Nexus. And he had to give it up because he needed to sell some things, and I said, you know, I'm not gonna sell this. I'm gonna keep this. So please tell me something. And he wrote, "Here's to the future," and you know, and all the things that come. And clearly, this is before he was the amazing draftsman he was now. But you could see the sparkle in what he did. Had he given up after that first book, we never would have known the genius of Steve Rude.
Yeah.
And that man, like everything I see come off of his pencil, everything I see that he posts on social media, he's actually running right now, and you'll probably be able to catch it when this runs through the month of September. He's doing daily sketches.
September's almost over.
Well, hopefully,
like
it's the 22nd.
Next
Hopefully
week.
you'll put this up.
We
right?
have a few in the can, so I'm not sure when this may not go up till October.
Oh, well, if you haven't, check out steverude.com, right? But I think it's actually might be rudeart.com.
They can Google.
Yeah, they can Google. But the man, genius in what he does, and having that. So it's been nice. I've established that. Going back to Bob Camp, I bought a Ren and Stimpy cell from him, actually from Powdered Toast Man.
Oh, nice.
It's nice.
I love Powdered Toast Man.
And his message on there was really nice, that true art is like, it's pure, right? Like, you don't be phony. Do what you feel inside and put it out there, and people are going to follow that. And I think that, again, goes right back to that type of, I think, the artist and teacher he is. He's a teacher in New York City, teaches art. I'd love to sit on one of his classes. I think that'd be awesome. So I'll ask this of different people, especially people who I respect. And now I've only, throughout all my 6 years of doing Comic-Cons, I've had my photograph taken with 2 celebrities. And you meet them all the time, and you get to know them.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're there.
Yeah, yeah.
And this, whether it's be media celebrities or artists doing what they do, they're just there. You exist with them. And so, and those 2 celebrities I've had my pictures taken with were Billy West.
Yep.
And then also Reb Jones, who played the original Captain America.
Oh, yeah.
And both of them, pleasures to talk to. Billy West is funny as hell when you talk to him.
Yeah.
And if my voice was there, I'd do my impersonation of him, because once you talk to him a couple of times, you kind of pick up his tone.
Yeah.
And then Red Brown was awesome. The guy's 68 and he's in perfect shape. And the guy takes care of himself, and he just such a good positive attitude. So one of the other guys I really love, and I've actually through Rhode Island I've met him, and I think he may not be back this year, but he was there last year. Is William Forsythe.
Okay, yeah.
And this guy, where I knew him,
he does a lot of shows. I've seen him in a lot of. Yeah.
He does. Most recently, the highest profile one I knew was Boardwalk Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But before that,
I meant like conventions.
Oh, okay, yeah, conventions, right. But before that, I knew him from the Untouchables TV series in the 90s, which I think is one of the best TV series to come out of the 90s. It's never been on DVD. You can't really see it. It's not out there. But he played Al Capone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was intimidating as Al Capone there. And when you walk up to this man, he's intimidating now.
Yeah.
But he's not intimidating. It's just the presence of him. He's got that presence to him. But he's been such a nice guy in talking to him. And I just spoken to him. He's played Jake LaMotta in a technical sequel to Raging Bull.
Okay.
And between the ages of his 30s into his 70s, and that was his the character. I said, well, what's your one bit of advice, right? Because you've been doing this. One of his first movies, he was in Once Upon a Time in America with Robert De Niro,
mm-hmm.
and he's been in I think he was in Happy Gilmore. I think we were talking about he was a thug in one of the Adam Sandler movies.
Oh, was he?
He was. He always plays a thug.
Yeah.
And so he said, I said, well, what
he's been in Rob Zombie movies too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
And I said, what's your bit of advice? And he's like, just keep on punching. And you got to keep on punching, right? Because if you stop, if you slow down, if you don't, you lose the momentum and you lose the fight. And I think that's been the most important thing is you got to keep punching. Now, sometimes you're going to punch like Rocky Marciano, right? You're going to go to knock some dude out. Sometimes you're going to punch like Jackie Chan. You gotta know, or sometimes
you gotta hate on Jackie Chan.
no hate on Jackie Chan, but it's a different type of fight.
Yeah, I suppose.
I would have said Jason Statham, but I mean the guy hasn't made a movie yet that has hit the mainstream that people really love. I think that's a guy that's like
Well, I love Jason Statham in movies that came out kind of before he became a name.
But is he really a name yet? I mean, I know he did that commercial for like.
I don't know, like he's headlining all sorts of movies.
But they're still like his movies. It's like watching Bruce Campbell. He's like the Bruce Campbell of action movies.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. Yeah. But I like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I love that movie. But that's not a Jason Statham movie.
No.
And I know it doesn't necessarily get good reviews, but I thought he was really good in...
you going to say Spy?
No.
He was funny in
The
Spy.
Italian Job.
Okay, yep.
Like, that had some really great moments in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was... I almost felt like when Mark Wahlberg wasn't on the screen. Was that Marky Mark or was it the other one? No, it was Mark.
Mark.
It's like when the other people were focused on. Like I almost felt like Mark Wahlberg was a downfall of that movie. And I don't dislike Mark Wahlberg, but you had Seth Green, you had Mos Def, you had Jason Statham. They were great, and you have Ed Norton, who's great.
Yep.
Other than to work with, he was a real asshole, but
that's
he's a phenomenal actor. And like the fun parts of that movie were almost like when Mark Wahlberg wasn't on the screen.
Yeah, he's got the intense thing. I mean, he's Mark Wahlberg is Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I have enjoyed it, a lot of his movies. Just I didn't think he was the strong point in that movie.
I think I enjoy it because I sympathize with the character he plays. Right? I mean, everywhere I go, people notice me for my accent.
Yeah.
Right, and he. Seems like he lost his accent and he kind of tries to bring it back. I don't think it's really there anymore.
I felt like he had the only genuine accent in what's the Boston movie? The Research.
The Departed?
Thank you.
Okay.
I felt like his was the only believable accent in that movie.
I have not seen The Departed, but I've seen Ted 1 and Ted 2, and I felt like his accent was a little overplayed.
Oh, yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah,
definitely. I haven't seen Ted 2, but you haven't seen The Departed?
No,
Man, you were giving me shit about not seeing something earlier.
Was I?
I think so.
I don't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it was either, but I felt like I was getting crap about something.
I'll always give you crap for that stuff.
But The Departed's a great movie. It's just one of those, they have that movie Boston accent, which is
right.
Like if I can hear a Boston accent, it's not really a Boston accent.
That's right.
You know, to me, it should just sound normal.
Right.
You know?
Same here. Right.
Yeah.
I've actually discovered that my accent doesn't, outside of the South Shore.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. So the best people and the worst people, because I've experienced that now that I've done some traveling and talked to a lot of people. The best people obviously are in the Boston area and Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Right. They love it. It's comforting to them.
Yeah.
Western Massachusetts, not so much. I don't understand that. Maybe because they're thinking like, "Well, we don't have it. Why, you know?" And
I get it. My girlfriend's from Ohio, so I get it all the time.
Which is interesting from like Ohio or the Midwest. Like they tend to be okay. I've sensed okay with it.
It's not like I don't get.
Is it an endearing thing? Is it a cute thing?
It's just like I'll say something and then she'll repeat it, and I'll be like, "Why? You know, I don't talk funny. You talk funny because I'm from here."
Right.
You know, it's just like one of those things.
California's been super awesome too. Nothing phases them out there. Like that was really interesting to see that. They didn't care. They liked the fact. You know, they're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." They never called it out. New York, love them. I'm sorry. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Patriots fan. Who they're playing right now, or they're about to start to play.
Yeah, it's pretty soon.
We're gonna be playing the Houston Texans.
But of course, that's a football team. And I don't even say that sarcastically.
It is. Yeah. And so I'm predicting that the Patriots will win with their third or fourth string quarterback.
Because they had the guy that cheated that's not allowed to play.
Right. Thanks, Andy. I enjoy losing listeners.
We may have listeners from not Massachusetts.
That's okay because I believe in science, right? What was that? I believe in fitness. Was that Mark Wahlberg from the Pain and Gain? That was.
I don't know. Was that the one with the rock?
Movie. Yeah, it was a fun movie.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Great movie, but sadistic movie.
Yeah.
But it was a dark comedy. It had some fun going on there. So these guys have been great. New York, again, I love New York. Every time I go there, I just enjoy the people. The shows I've had, they've been some of my nearest and dearest to my heart. I've got to meet a lot of really fun, happy, just world-class people there.
Yeah.
These guys from New Jersey, I don't know what we did to them. But every time they'll come across, so you're from Boston, huh? How's that Bill Belichick doing? I'm like,
really?
What have we done to you? What does New Jersey have?
The Jets.
Yeah.
It's just
where the Jets play. It's where the Giants play. And when you get embarrassed enough, like the Jets are, at some point you get a little bitter. It happens.
I guess so, but it's so bitter that they get angry. I'm like, you're getting angry at me because I'm from Boston. Well, I'm not even from Boston. I travel into Boston. I'm from the South Shore. Actually, I'm from the greater Boston area if you're in Hingham and Deluxebury because you won't...
Deluxebury.
Yeah. But I believe I'm South Shore. As much as, you know, as inward as I am, it's still there. And, you know, I have a funny story. Do we have time? I don't know.
Yeah, we have plenty of time.
On there.
No, we're good.
The clock kind of froze at 40 minutes. I'm just making it up. I'm making
it look like you're looking over my shoulder.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
what
it
the
look like
hell
you have a big podcast.
Oh yeah. We're
like,
super...
No, that's just a beer cap.
Yeah. So I'm coming back from Bermuda, and this is on a cruise, and we had the night before you disembark back, you have to pack everything up in your suitcases, and they take it all. So you have to really wearing what you have on and off the boat. Well, I packed my wallet in my pants, and I forgot about that. So I had no ID coming off the boat. So I get off the boat, and this is pre 9/11, right? No, it's not. It's post 9/11.
Wow, and you have ID?
I had no ID on me. I get off the boat in at Black Falcon Terminal in Boston, and the customs guy is like, "Where's your ID?" I'm like, "Oh, it's in my pants pocket." And he's like, "Well, I can't let you off the boat." I'm like, who else would have me? Where else am I from? I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, you know, listen to me.
You can't fake this.
No, this isn't coming
People
from anywhere
from here
else.
Can't fake this accent. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks at me and goes, okay, he nods his head and I go on.
Yeah.
So that was my one get out of trouble free card. But that would have been a full search and everything else. So the accent has helped me in times. And actually, people in my life, you know, outside my family, most of my friends are all... Well, there are a couple from the South Shore, but most of them are from out of state. So I'm the novelty.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the park the car in Harvard Yard.
So, oh god, I hate that. My favorite is Steve Sweeney, the comedian, and he's like, I'll go around and people be like, oh, say park the car in Harvard Yard. He's like, I don't talk like that. What are you, friggin' retarded?
Yeah.
But so we're talking about, you know, voices and accents and stuff, and it just occurred to me. So hypothetically speaking, you're making Boots and Pup into a cartoon.
Who would I make for voices? I already have it picked out.
Oh, see,
yeah. And the reason why I have it picked out is part of it's because I am a fan of cartoons, and part of it's
talking
because
about accents, and I can't not just hear him dropping R's.
Yeah,
and I do it all the time too. But it's just like now I'm focused on it.
The hard S's when people say S all the time in the microphones, that always kills me. But the way I'd work it is, I would I'll start with Boots first. Because this one's a little bit of a tiny bit of a stretch.
Now, Boots is the blue one.
Boots is a tall blue guy. Yeah. He's got a little bit of anxiety to him. He's got a little bit of like, oh, you know, the life's kind of like, oh, I got to work. I got to worry about these things. It's going to be Dave Foley from News Radio.
Oh, I love Dave Foley.
Dave Foley, I think, has his voice.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my, okay, if I'm going to pick an American to play him, done.
Isn't he Canadian?
Oh, he is Canadian. That's right.
So if I'm going to pick an American, I'm going to pick a Canadian.
Okay. Well, because but this is part 2 to this.
Okay, go ahead.
So
if I pick a Russian,
pick a Russian, pick a Scandinavian. Yeah. Pup, on the other hand, I'd have to give it to Billy West. Mm-hmm. I think that Billy West would do him justice. I think that there's a tonal quality to him that he can play that sort of troublemaker, that little guy. And when you see him perform his characters, he just puts a lot into it. Now, Sniffles the fish, who is, by the way, the third Marx brother in all of this, right? Because without Boots and Pup...
Is the third one Zeppo? Isn't one of them not
Well,
sweet?
Actually, so it was Hoppo, Chico, Zeppo... Hoppo, Chico, Groucho, Zeppo, Gummo, and then Milton.
Okay.
Wait, no, Milton was Gummo. There were 6 of them.
There's one of them that doesn't speak.
Well, that was Hoppo.
Okay.
Yeah. And so... but in terms of like that trio, because when the 2 of them together, it's Abbott and Costello. When the 3 of them, it's the Marx Brothers.
Okay.
And so Sniffles, who is a fan favorite by far, would be Dana Snyder from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He played Master
The
Shake.
Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the Alchemist.
Oh,
yes.
nice. Oh,
yep.
Okay, yeah.
Who, by the way, is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet at a show, and I do have a Dana Snyder story.
Yeah. Well, let's hear it.
Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, might as well. I haven't told it yet on any sort of podcast, so this is the first and foremost. So I had the opportunity to meet Dana at Rhode Island Comic Con, and I gave him a copy of Boots and Pup. I said, "Look, I by the way, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, favorite cartoon off of Adult Swim. It was the only show that I would carry on my iPod and my iPhone, and I'd listen to, I'd watch over and over again. And so I got a chance to meet him, and he's a really nice guy, and he was regular, just Joe at the show, like to talk to you, and truly was interested in what you had to say. He can also be a kind of an ass on the long of like a who's the guy? Hockey Puck.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, right? So you know that. I was
gonna say Dick Cheney. I knew that was wrong.
But it's calculated and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And so in doing that and saying that, like, he's got a great persona, and it was awesome. First of all, to get the chance to meet him because I was one of the highlights of the show, and gave him a copy, and sure enough, like, he liked the book.
Nice.
He gave me a quote for the book.
So really?
So he gave me a quote, and so we kept in touch through social media, which was really nice. And so it's nice because you do this, you do your day job, and then you go like, hey, by the way, this guy on this TV show who I really likes the stuff. I don't know if he really likes it, but he was supportive. He tweeted about it on Twitter. It's nice stuff. So we get out to I go out to San Diego Comic Con, and I'm like, chatted with him. I said, hey, I'm going to be at my out there in Artist Alley. If you get a chance to stop by, I'll give you a copy of the latest book. Forget about it. So we do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday Comic Con, right? It's tremendous. It has its ups, it has its downs, and Saturday. So by Friday night, my girlfriend, she had to head back home because our dog wasn't doing so well, and so she went back with her, and so I had Saturday by myself. So Saturday morning, about 11 o'clock or so, I'm there, and I look. there comes Dana Snyder walking up through Comic-Con. And he comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going great." So we start talking and everything. What are you guys up to? He does a podcast called Drunk on Disney with Guy Hutchinson and Bart Scott. Funny stuff. Like what the premise behind it is, at Disney, you go there are adult beverages. You can drink them. Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll mix one of those drinks that you can get, and they'll talk about all things Disney and the rides and the parks because they're real big fans of it. Yeah. And it's funny. These guys have a great rapport. It's just an awesome podcast to listen to. So it was telling me about how that was working out. And
almost as awesome as this podcast?
Yes, almost as awesome. Right. Well, I mean, you guys are on the same level. Yeah, I mean, because it has me. Yeah. That makes it great. So we're talking about about how things are going, and I'm like thinking, this is great because Master Shake is standing in front of my booth for about 10-15 minutes talking about stuff, and he said to me, "Hey, we're saying goodbye to Aquatine tonight. Why don't you come by and check it out, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that would be awesome," because the voice of Master Shake just asked me to check out the show.
Asked you to check out anything at that point.
Yeah. So I'm like, "That's awesome. That's great. I'll do it." So Saturday at San Diego, I'll go on record as saying it was my worst day at a Comic-Con ever. I sold one book. Yeah. One book. I've never sold one book on one day. Yeah. So it was a long day too. It gets out at 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock's rolling around. I'm like, I was invited to go check this out, and I'm like, I'm really tired. My girlfriend's headed back, and I just kind of, do I want to just head back? But I'm like, no, are you kidding me? There's one show I really like out there, and that's Aquatine, and I want to say goodbye to it because this is awesome. And so I go out there, and it's on. If you know anything about San Diego Comic-Con, it's huge, but it's out now. This is outside on the lawn, right next to the ocean, and Adult Swim has this huge carnival set up.
Oh, and okay.
It was awesome. So they also have this huge inflatable screen where they do all these showings, and so I proceeded to stand in line at 7 o'clock, and I think the thing was going on at 8:15, 8:30. And so I'm standing there in line, and it's a good thing because they only let 400 people in. So I was probably like number 30 in the line. And the two women in front of me, younger women, they're like, they start talking like, "Oh my God, it was so awesome! I got to meet Dana today at the signing, and the signing was happening right after he stopped by in Artist Alley to chat." And she's like, "He's so awesome." And the woman was telling me you got to go. You can't stay here forever. You have to stop sign. You have to go so he can sign for other people. And he's all awesome. And I'm like, well, if you came by my booth, you were just kind of hang out there. Nobody noticed him because obviously, unless you're in front of them and you have a sign saying, "Hey, I'm the voice of Master Shake," right? Unless you really know, right? Which I do know. I mean, whether it's Jess Harnell is easy to pick out, or Rob Paulson, like these guys.
Or sometimes you hear them. Like I feel like his voice is very distinct.
It's very distinct, and the way he got the job was really through a phone call from Dave Willis. Yeah. Dave Willis called him up and heard the voice and said, "I want that." Yeah. And he had been an actor, and he'd done some things. And I know I'm digressing from the story, but my first time actually seeing Dana was actually at the Wilbur Theater in Boston, where he, Dave, and the guy that they found to play Carl in real life did this traveling comedy show. And a group of buddies and I went in there and watched these guys perform, and they were hilarious. And so we saw that. And so, you knew the story, you knew the voice, you knew who he was. So they're talking like, he was hanging out at my table. They're like, "Oh yeah, great." Like, I don't believe you. So we go through the line and we get there, and in front of the screen, there's a section right in front of the screen. There's these blankets, and then there are to the left of or in front of the blankets or behind the blankets, but to the left are these seats. Then they're like chairs that are ground level, and then there's just a whole bunch of grass. And I'm like, I'm the old guy. I've been standing on my feet all day. I'm just going to grab a seat, right? No one else is grabbing them. Right. So I go to grab a seat, and a woman comes over to me and says, you can't sit there. You don't got one of those wristbands. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, "You got to have a wristband. That's for friends and family and VIPs only." I'm like, it's okay. I'm fine. Because, one of the stars of the show invited me to come here, and I love the show, and I want to sit and I want to hang out. So I grab my backpack that I had, drop it on the ground, and I plop myself down. So I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting for the show to come on, and things start to get dark out, and then they have video cameras and everything going because this is the end of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
After I think 14 seasons, they're going out on top.
Yeah.
So Dave Willis comes out. Dave Willis, by the way, is the voice of Meatwad and the creator of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be another guy involved. I'm not quite sure, but he's hanging out there, and then Dana comes out, and everyone's like cheering and everything, wonderful stuff. So Dave goes to the right, and Dana goes to the left, and Dana sees, all in this VIP section, all the VIPs from Adult Swim and everything else, and actually George, the guy dresses up like Space Ghost, he's there.
Yeah.
So he's saying hi and everything, and so the distance from Dana and I on the lawn were probably from me to beyond that door over there. So it's probably about 30 feet, and so he's saying hi to everybody, and then he sees me, and he beelines over to me. Yeah. And he comes over, he says, "Hey, thanks for showing up." He says, "Why are you sitting over here? Yeah. Why aren't you sitting in one of those chairs?" I said, "Well, I didn't have the right wristband."
You didn't give me a wristband, yeah.
But it's okay, because the star of the show just, in front of 400 people, just came over to me and said, "Why aren't you sitting there?" So my day, as bad as it might have been for book sales or anything else, was made because this is what doing this stuff is all about. You get these unsuspected opportunities to you meet people that you admire, whether they be creative as Dana is, or whether they be the artists that you get to know, anything else. I'm like, I'm totally cool with this. So I'm sitting there like, the star of the show just kind of came over and said hi.
Nice.
And then about 5 minutes later, he comes back and he has a wristband. He kind of wiggles in front of me and says, "Here, now go sit in a seat, you old bastard." And now I'm like, I got the wristband on, and I look at the woman who said, "You can't sit there." I said, "Can I sit there now under the wristband?" And she says, "Yes, absolutely." So I go over there, and I guess there's people from the Seth Meyers show right around me, and some guy I'm sitting next to, I kind of think I know who he is. He looks like he's one of those actors that you see on there. I don't quite know his name. And that made my whole Comic-Con. Was that I had an opportunity to hang out in the VIP section, watching a show that I really loved and admired.
Invited by one of the people.
Invited by it.
That's the thing right there.
And then when I relayed the story to a friend of his, he's like, "That's who Dana is. He's a nice guy." And I've experienced that, and throughout the, everybody I've met has been super awesome. Everybody I've had an opportunity to connect with afterwards has just been the greatest. I've had a really good ride with this. And nice. So I can't see it being any worse.
Nice.
Unless I go to a show next year and it turns out to be like some guy was a total D-bag.
Well, it's bound to happen, but
Well, there are stories, but I mean, little stories.
Well, John, it was a pleasure having you on the show. We're definitely going to have you back. This was a lot of fun. And to do our due diligence, we are sampling Greenhead IPA, the beer that bites you back. Do you feel you've been bitten back?
Oh, I've been bitten twice.
All right. It's from Newport Brewing Company. It's an IPA. John's been drinking it and enjoying it. It's a 7.2 by volume alcohol, and it's apparently, according to the back, it's an assertive and hoppy West Coast style Indian Pale Ale with bright flavors that offset smooth malt undertones, a distinct hop aroma with a clean, crisp, balanced finish. We have our life drawing the first Monday of every month at New World Tavern here in Plymouth. And so if someone wants Boots and Pups, you said they can get it at Amazon?
They can go to Amazon.com, Boots and Pup, or they can go to bootsandpup.com, and that will take them to any one of the books on Amazon.
Are you also on Twitter and Facebook?
I am.
So they can get you there. And if feel free to follow us on Inebri-art on Facebook or on Twitter at Inebri-art. And again, John, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I've enjoyed the show.
Excellent.